the past 2 seasons, David Peterson has a 2.74 ERA. Maybe he's just good. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Thursday, June 12th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. If you're watching us on YouTube, we're trying a different video setup, so let us know in the comments. Do you like it? Do you not? I don't know. We're kind of messing.
Do you really want them to let us know, Frank?
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, people famously love change. And so I think it's going to go over great.
Not a single complaint. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, today on the show, we've got 2 complete games in the same day. What year is it? Marcelo Mayer had his breakout game. We'll have some fun with arbitrary endpoints. Chris, I know you'll love that. And much more. Let's jump in.
Adios, Marcelo!
All right. That call comes courtesy of the WEEI Red Sox Radio Network.
Also known as Wee.
You just reminded me of that Geico commercial with the pig that's like,
I think that commercial is hilarious.
They brought it back. How
commercial
old?
Makes me laugh every single time.
Isn't it like 15 years old and they just randomly brought it back?
It's always in standard definition. Yeah.
That guy who's like the Twilight Zone who introduces it, like, because that was a whole series of commercials at the time, it didn't seem out of place for him to say, did you know Geico could save you 15% or more on car insurance? But now it's just like randomly thrown in with no context. And kids who weren't there for the start of it, they don't know what's going on. Kids don't watch commercials anymore. What are we even talking about?
What are we talking about, Scott? Let's talk about David Peterson, your player of the night.
Yeah, David Peterson threw a shutout. How about that? Complete game shutout against the Nationals. 6 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts. Was good. 13 swinging strikes, 5 of them on the slider. That is his best whiff pitch, and it's a pretty good whiff pitch. It was better even earlier in his career, I would say. It had over it used to have over a 40% whiff rate, but it's still, mid 30%. It's when he gets strikeouts, that's usually the reason why. And he's been missing bats at a pretty nice clip lately. Coming into this start, David Peterson had a 12% swinging strike rate in his previous 6, which is good. If he can sustain close to that, then it's hard to find much fault in him. He's not a great control pitcher. And so the whip is going to run high, but he is among the best ground ball pitchers in baseball. I'm looking up exactly where he ranks among qualifiers. Ground ball rate is 5th. It looks like here, behind just Jose Soriano, Andre Palante, Framber Valdez, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I didn't realize Yamamoto was that good at getting grounders. But yeah, David Peterson among the best. So that helps to limit damage. Of course, he had an ERA below 3 last year. In large part because of those ground ball skills. The ground ball rate's even higher now. Has an ERA below 3. He's starting to get more whiffs like he did a few years back. And I don't know. It's hard to find too much fault in him. Earlier this year, my complaint was, well, yeah, he's not going deep into games, but even that's changed. Of course, the complete game here, 3 of his last 4, he's gone 7 innings or more. 6 of his last 7, he's gone 6 innings or more. So, he's not an ace. He doesn't have that kind of bat missing potential. Again, the whip's going to run kind of high, but is he somebody who you need to be mixing in at least, needs to be rostered in every league? At this point, it's hard to argue otherwise.
So, yeah, it depends what we're talking about, right? Like, do I believe David Peterson is a 2.85 ERA pitcher or whatever it is over the past 2 seasons combined? No, I don't. His FIP is 350 in that span. His xFIP is 386. His xERA is above 4. Even if you take him as seriously as a low 3s ERA guy, it's still a 128 whip in that stretch as well. It's still low strikeout rates. Like, it's kind of the only thing he does well is ERA. But that's not to say he's not useful. Like, if it's a 350 ERA and a high-ish whip, that's a useful pitcher. I don't think he's an ace, certainly. I don't think he's even like a must-start pitcher because ERA is not the only category. But I do think he's useful. Yes.
Let me bring this up as not so much because I believe it, but I guess just to play devil's advocate. So one of the best ground ball pitchers in baseball, as I've brought up, with the strikeouts he's been getting recently, he's now at 8K per nine, a little over 8K per nine, and has it shown he can sustain at least a low 3 ERA. I mean, who else? If I say, 8+ K per nine, but not quite a K per inning, elite ground ball rate, ERA in the low 3s,
I know exactly
left-hander.
I know exactly.
Who does that sound like?
Framber Valdez.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Max Fried.
Wait, was it actually Framber Valdez, Scott? Is that what you were going for?
No, it was Framber Valdez. I mean,
Okay.
Peterson's control isn't near the level of Fried's. And,
Okay, because Fried was the guy who came to mind for me, and that's what I was going to say is big difference in whip. But even with Valdez, it's a huge difference in whip. Valdez, early in his career, whip was a legit weakness in his game, and I guess relative to other top 12, top 15-ish starting pitchers, he tends to be more in the 111, 115 range. That's good, but it's not elite. Peterson's whip is actively harmful.
It's 119 right now. So it's
after today. Yes. Sure.
Let's say Framber Valdez from 3 to 4 years ago. Could David Peterson be a poor man's Framber Valdez from 3 or 4 years ago? And I understand poor man's is a vague term that can that can cover up a lot of flaws, but I don't know. It may not be so wrong to think of him that way. Again, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here because if David Peterson has a 5 ERA over his next 5 starts and we don't want anything to do with him anymore, I don't think it would be the most shocking thing. But it's not like this has come out of left field. It's not like it's not as uncharacteristic the way he's performed recently as like the way Matthew Liberatore was performing earlier this year, and now maybe not so interesting anymore.
I do think that David Peterson is a candidate to be a rankings riser for all of us. There are some players that just kind of like fall through the cracks, and I look at names that are like in the 50s and 60s at starting pitcher. I don't really see a reason why he can't at least be in that range, like a top 70 starting pitcher. So I think he probably should at least be around there. And so I think I'm going to make that change and move David Peterson up quite a bit. And it's not just reacting to this start. Obviously, it was a great start, but he's maintained a great ERA for 2 years in a row. So perhaps, finally deserves that credit. Chris, let's go over to you for your player of the night.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Jesus Luzardo is mine. And if you are hoping that we have some grand unified theory, both of what went wrong for Jesus Luzardo in his previous 2 starts and then what went so right for him on Wednesday night, I don't got it. I don't know. Maybe you guys do.
Oh, yeah, I do.
The only thing I can say is he was tipping his pitches and then he stopped tipping his pitches. That's the only thing that makes sense because
that appears to be the case.
Right. No, but I'm saying in the ways we traditionally try to evaluate pitchers, looking at like the arsenal, the movement profile, the way they're throwing their pitches, nothing ever actually looked all that wrong for Jesus Luzardo. Like his velocity was up a little bit. He got 10 strikeouts in 6 innings, 1 earned run against the Cubs. Really good matchup, or really tough matchup. His velocity on his 4-seamer was up 0.4 miles per hour in this one. And so you could say, well, maybe that's it, except it's the exact same velocity he averaged when the Blue Jays hit him for 12 runs in 3 1/3 innings 2 starts ago. He threw his 4-seamer more in this one, which not really the diagnosis that or the cure that anyone would have suggested for Jesus Luzardo turning things around, because the 4-seamer, it's a decent pitch in that it's hard and he can get whiffs with it, but it tends to get hit really hard too. So I say all of that just to get to, I was building to it, Scott.
Okay.
I was building to I think he was tipping his pitches is probably the best explanation for what went so wrong for him And look,
so it seems like it's verified. We don't just have to theorize here. There was a count, the Warmonger on Twitter, and he gave a hat tip to Scott Lauber, who is a Phillies beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I didn't see what Scott Lauber wrote. Maybe all this comes from him originally, but the Warmonger Twitter account did a side-by-side video comparison of
the one on the glove angle.
Yeah. So from second base, you could see from second base what his grip was, basically. And so the runner on second was doing something to signal to the batter what was coming. And it looks like he may have even been using a bigger glove in this start to hide the hand better. And that account, the Warmonger, pointed out that in his prior to the two miserable starts with a runner on second, Luzardo had a 143 batting average against and a 34% whiff rate. And during those two awful starts, it was a 900 batting average against with a 12.5% whiff rate. And then, he makes the change and suddenly he looks like the Cy Young contender he did prior to the two terrible starts. So I'm saying problem solved. Get Luzardo back in your lineup. I mean, he did this against, wasn't it against the Cubs?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems pretty clear to me. It stinks for Roto, really, that you got those two starts where he had the 20 earned runs in 6 innings and blew up his ERA, blew up his whip. They're still blown up after this great start. And it's going to take a long time to bring them back down to a place where you're happy you drafted Jesus Luzardo. But hopefully he's well on his way now. And there's no undoing that in Roto. So it's not even worth thinking about what Luzardo's overall ERA and whip is, just what it's going to be going forward.
You can't unring the bell for those two starts. And that's unfortunate. That's already set in stone. But look, I think you probably needed to sit him here. But now that we've seen him turn it back around and, one of his best starts of the season, I think he's had, it's really funny that if you look at the game log, it's 10 strikeout game, 10 strikeout game, 12 runs against the Blue Jays, 8 runs against I can't remember who it was last time around. And then 10 strikeouts today. Like, he had 2 of his 3 best starts of the season, the 2 worst starts of his career, like an all-time bad 2-start stretch, and then comes right back with one of his 4 or 5 best starts of the season. There doesn't seem to be any explanation except for that, pitch tipping. So I feel pretty confident that Jesus Luzardo is going to be just fine. And hopefully everyone will just be aware of what went wrong this time and how to avoid it moving forward.
Yeah, after the start, the ERA for Luzardo is 4.23, but the underlying numbers still look great. It's a 2.65 FIP, 3.06 xFIP, and really just the BABIP is the thing that stands out. And, he gave up all those hits in those 2 starts. A 3.76 BABIP for Luzardo, 10 hits per 9. For his career, 3.06 BABIP. So it does seem like, he obviously had some pretty tough luck there in those
one instance where removing the 2 worst starts might actually have some analytical value.
I'm writing it down. It's in Scott's analysis next draft season already. I've got it ready to go. Let's get into Marcelo Mayer, who had his breakout game thus far, 2 for 4 with a double dong, 2 home runs here, 108.7 exit velocity, 418 feet. 104.9 exit velocity, 410 feet. So 2 pretty long homers here for Marcelo Mayer, who all of a sudden the stat line looks much better after this game, hitting 250. He's got 3 homers, 836 OPS, 27% strikeout rate thus far. Ground ball rate is a little high, 53% rostered. He's got 2 position eligibility, third base, shortstop. Don't want to put too much on one game, obviously, for a hitter here, but do you guys think that number should be higher? 53% for Marcelo Mayer.
The problem with Marcelo Mayer right now is I think he's just a stash. Like, I don't think he's actually all that startable right now. And that's not to say I don't think he's good, because I think he can be, but he had sat, what was it, like 4 out of 5 games before this or something?
He played 3 in a row, but then he sat 4 of the 6 before that.
It's just the left. He's been sitting
Yeah,
against
he's
the
just sitting against lefties.
Yeah.
And there was a quote from Alex Cora today where he was like, I've been doing platoons since 2018 and it's worked out pretty well for me, so I'm going to keep doing it. And like,
has it?
This is the struggle, because the Red Sox are trying to compete this year, whether they should be or not. They are.
They were my AL champs, so I think they should be.
But the AL East.
They also have 3 of the top, 18, 20 prospects in baseball. And finding playing time for all 3 of those guys when they already had a full roster before those 3 guys were added is going to be really tricky. And balancing that is a really difficult thing. And I'm not even saying I don't think Alex Cora is the guy to be like, I'm not saying I don't think he's a good manager. His job is to win games and to try to make the playoffs. And his job is not necessarily to get Roman Anthony and Marcelo Mayer 5 years from now to be superstars. Like, that's part of the job, and that will make his job easier in 5 years, but he might not be the manager in 5 years if he doesn't win games this season. So like, this is the thing that's going to be really tough about this. And so I do think Marcelo Mayer, he's 56% rostered, you said?
53.
I think it's fine to add him where he's available. Because
not wherever, right? I mean, it depends on what your situation is, because it's not, I don't think Marcelo Mayer is worth using in fantasy with his current usage. So the hope is that he forces them to change that usage, either by being so good that they just can't keep him out of the lineup, even against lefties, or that, Rob Refsnyder and Romy Gonzalez is his name.
Yeah.
And Abraham Toro, like this motley crew of lefty mashers who are all hitting really well right now for the Red Sox, it should be noted, that those guys just slow down and they have to give Marcelo Mayer opportunities. But where that has to change before he can be useful for fantasy. So I think you can only view Marcelo Mayer as a stash, like what Roman Anthony was before he got called up.
And a lot of leagues don't have the luxury of a stash. I think 53% covers all roto leagues. It covers all dynasty leagues. It covers a handful of the deepest head-to-head leagues. And I think that's right. I think it's basically perfect. And, more games like this, like that, the main thing that's going to change Alex Cora's mind on whether Marcelo should play against lefties is Marcelo's killing it, and he can't take him out of the line. And we've seen that with Michael Busch lately. Suddenly he started playing against left-handers because he's been killing it. And so that's the best way to get around that. Now, as a rookie, will Marcelo ever get to a point where he's truly killing it? Maybe this is the start of it. Maybe it's just a one-off. But until that happens, he's probably just somebody to scout or potentially stash if your league goes deep enough into the hitter pool.
Have that luxury, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take our first break. Before we do that, big thanks to everyone watching us live. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver, touchdown!
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year!
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals!
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Quickly, before we hit the news and notes, want to give some love to Spencer Schwellenbach, who was the other complete game of the day. 5 hits, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts, 0 walks, 15 whiffs on 105 pitches, 11 of those on the fastball. All of a sudden, that fastball, he's got 8+ whiffs on that pitch in 3 of his last 4 outings. And during that 4-start stretch, it's a 2.22 ERA, 0.88 whip, 35 strikeouts to just 2 walks over 28 1/3. So we had a bit of a rocky stretch there for Schwellenbach. He wasn't getting that many strikeouts, but boom, looks like he's flipped a switch here.
Yeah, I don't think we need to worry about Schwellenbach anymore. I don't know that he'll ever get to a point where he's a true number one in fantasy, but you know, Max Fried wasn't for the longest time either. It's like, man, Max Fried is great. I wish he'd get more strikeouts, but he just kept winning people fantasy leagues. And look, now he might win a Cy Young. And I think Schwellenbach's kind of the right-handed version of that.
Yeah, he does really good stuff in 3 out of the 4 categories. I guess wins, the Braves are kind of mediocre right now, but I think they'll be at least a 500 or better team moving forward. Elite whip, good ERA. You can live with the low-ish strikeout totals. I think that's fine. It's just the difference between being the 16th best pitcher in fantasy and the 6th best pitcher in fantasy. He's probably more like the 16th. I think some people hoped he would be more like the 6th best. I don't think that's happening yet, but there's nothing wrong with being the 16th best pitcher in fantasy.
All right, let's get into the news and notes. Jackson Jobe will undergo Tommy John surgery, and based on the timing, he'll miss most of next season as well. Huge blow for his dynasty value, obviously, and a rough go here for the Tigers. Not that he was having a great season here, but, you know, he was a highly regarded prospect, and this was supposed to be a big development season for Jackson Jobe. So pretty big blow there for him and the Tigers. Cole Reagans was placed in the IL with a left rotator cuff strain, and before he was dealing with the groin, now it's the shoulder, which obviously is not great, and frankly, kind of came out of nowhere. I have him locked into a few weekly lineups this week, and we didn't really have any indication this was going to happen. So just kind of sprung up here on Cole Reagans. Freddie Freeman is dealing with...
I want to say this is like a big boy injury too. He'd been dealing with a groin a couple times when on the IL for that, but rotator cuff, that's a scarier thing. And
there was no sign of it, right?
Nope.
It doesn't have to be a long-term issue, but it often is. And sometimes turns into something even worse. So definitely my alarm is raised on Reagans quite a bit, and he's going to move down my rankings by probably a few dozen spots.
All right, Freddie Freeman is dealing with a quad injury, but was still in the lineup here on Wednesday. Shane McClanahan will visit another nerve specialist within the next several days before determining the next steps in his rehab. Kevin Cash added that McClanahan is once again in, quote, shutdown mode for now. And at this point, I really don't know if we're going to get anything from Shane McClanahan this season. Nathan Eovaldi played catch on Wednesday. He's currently on the IL with a right triceps injury. Jazz Chisholm was back in the lineup after leaving Tuesday with a neck injury, but then left Wednesday's game with left groin tightness. So we wait and see. Christian Yelich was out of the lineup due to renewed swelling in his right wrist. Luke Weaver threw a bullpen on Wednesday and said afterward that he felt great. The Brewers are shifting Aaron Savali to the bullpen, which is great news for Jacob Misiorowski. If he pitches well on Thursday, my guess is he'll stick around.
Oh gosh, because we have this different view, and it's a narrower box for those who aren't watching on YouTube. It's a narrower box for each of us, a taller but narrower box, so you just see a shoulder wide basically. And Chris's cat walked in front of him, and it was just a tail waving in his face. It looked like some kind of like eldritch horror kind of creature popping up.
Things are a mess, right? I've got 3 children visiting this week and my sister-in-law. I am confined to my office. This is where I'm sleep. This is where I live now. The cats are stuck in here and they are not happy about it. Nobody is handling this well. You may have been able to hear my cat has been screaming the entire podcast, trying to get let out of the room. She does not deal well with change. And so she's lying down now on my keyboard. Maybe she'll stay there, but probably not. I do want to go back to Cole Reagans for just 1 second, because I'm looking at the Baseball Prospectus Recovery Dashboard tool, where they have a very extensive, presumably exhaustive record of injuries, and you can search by injury type. I searched for rotator cuff strains for pitchers, and they have 21 in there that were specifically noted as rotator cuff strains. 6 of those 21 did return from within 2 to 4 weeks. Looks like right around 20 days was the average time missed for them. The average time for the 21 as a whole is 61. So it kind of feels like you can come back after a couple of weeks from this injury. And if you don't, it's probably more like 2 months or longer. So that's kind of my internal, and that's what I was thinking when I saw this injury with Reagan's anyway. So yeah, it could be fundamentally a season ender for him, even if it's not totally serious.
You can't treat it that way yet, but it could be. Yeah. And in fact, that's probably the likelier scenario.
Probably, yeah. I would say you shouldn't assume the best case scenario in this with this specific injury, unfortunately.
I should mention as part of the fallout there, this probably means Noah Cameron is going to stick around in the rotation for the Royals. And, 5 quality starts in a row, and then he had a rough one against the Yankees here. But for the most part, he's pitched well. We want more strikeouts, but he's been doing a good job keeping runs off the board. Max Scherzer will begin a rehab assignment with AAA on Friday. The hope is for him to throw 60 to 65 pitches. He is 56% rostered. Are you guys interested in stashing Max Scherzer?
You could always use another pitcher. I'm not going to say it's a must, but I'm interested in seeing what he does when he returns. And if I had a spot to play with, I wouldn't prioritize it over Jacob Mizorowski or anything, but sure.
Brendan Donovan has a sprained capsule in the joint of his left big toe, which is very specific. He sounded optimistic that the IL won't be necessary. Austin Hayes underwent another MRI on his injured left foot. That came back negative. He's still dealing with pain, unfortunately. So looks like he's kind of at a halt right now. Cody Bradford threw a 22-pitch bullpen on Wednesday. Any interest in stashing Cody Bradford?
Less than Scherzer, but not zero.
Yeah. All right. He's probably still a month plus away. Is Cody Bradford the kind of guy you need to wait a month for? If you have the IL spot, sure.
And Patrick Bailey was placed on the IL with a neck strain. Chris, I am sorry for your dynasty team.
It's a big blow. It's a big
24-teamer, which even pointing out it's a 24-teamer, it's like, should Patrick Bailey be rostered?
Well, there aren't a lot of good catchers out there in this league.
Yeah.
I will say, I got a Reed Detmers save. Reed Detmers has 22 points this week somehow.
Whoa.
Flying high.
All right. Let's get into fun with arbitrary endpoints, the hitter edition. And I'm just going to run through some players here. If you guys have anything to comment on for any of them, feel free, jump in. Marcus Semien, he's coming alive. 1 for 4 with his 7th home run last 11 games. He is hitting .459 with 4 homers, 13 runs, 10 RBI, 3 steals, and an OPS over 1,500. Is Marcus Semien back?
I genuinely think he might be okay. I'm only going to say might because I think this is the controversial take, the more controversial take to say, he might be okay. Everybody was writing him off completely, but we've seen this from Semien before, and the track record speaks for itself.
I basically had him buried in second base rankings. I moved him back up to 12 today. So I was like, all right, it kind of looks like he's coming around here. Big game for Brent Rooker, who went 4 for 5 with a double dong, 3 RBI. And in his last 20 games, he's hitting .380 with 5 homers, 18 RBI, and an OPS over 1,000. Brent Rooker's good.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where like he has an 840 OPS for the season. He's on like a 35 homer, 90 to 100 run and RBI pace. I don't even think we need to do arbitrary endpoints here. He's just good.
He's good. Yeah.
I think he's just a really good hitter.
Yeah, the strikeout rate's so much better this year. Wow. 21%. It was 29 last year.
Yeah. All right. Brent Rooker. Next up, we've got Brandon Nimmo. Big game. 2 for 3 with 2 homers in this one. Last 15 games, he's hitting .310 with 4 homers, 13 runs scored, 3 steals, and a .954 OPS. Scott, you're the Brandon Nimmo guy.
I am.
He's coming around.
He's coming around. Yeah. The only thing I'm really disappointed in is he's stopped walking at his premium clip, the one he's sustained for his whole career. And so that's suppressed his points league value a bit, made him less valuable in that format than he normally is. But who knows? Maybe those will start to come around now that pitchers have his power bat to fear.
All right, next up, Juan Soto for 4. No more. 2 for 4 with his 13th home run. Last 12 games, he's hitting .390 with 5 homers and OPS over 1,400, and he is absolutely destroying the baseball, which we figured would happen eventually.
Like, I can't say nobody was worried because I know that's not true, and I know how people are, but nobody should have actually been worried about Juan Soto.
I think it's more so, Chris, just the first year of a mega contract in a new place. I mean, we do get down seasons, and even with this hot stretch, it still is a down season for Soto.
Sure.
Now, he could do this for the next 20 games and everything will just turn out to be fine. But it also wouldn't surprise me if, based on what we saw last year with the Yankees, he doesn't live up to that expectation.
Sure. And I don't think you should have expected that. And I don't think, I think it's arguable that Juan Soto was overdrafted because he was like a top 6 to 8 pick in a lot of leagues. And like,
you were making the case at the time, to be fair, to be fair to you.
What, that
you thought
he was
Juan
being
Soto
overdrafted?
was being overdrafted.
Yeah. No, that because like it was a big park downgrade and we had seen him struggle, but like, again, it's like if he's the 16th best player in fantasy versus the 6th, that is frustrating because you probably drafted him as the 6th best player in fantasy. That's the difference between him and Spencer Schwellenbach, because Schwellenbach was like the 30th starting pitcher drafted, but
that's not going to be the reason you don't win your league.
Right? Yeah, like that, he's still been and will be a very good player. Like he's on like 130 run pace, if I'm doing the math in my head correctly.
You know what's crazy is he's had a down season. He's averaging 3.5 fantasy points.
Yeah, like he's still an awesome player.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, it's I understand it's frustrating when your first round pick is struggling, but there was never any reason to believe that Juan Soto wouldn't be very, very good.
Mm-hmm. The expected stats are still amazing too for what
better than last year, I believe.
I don't know about that, but they are very, very good.
They underperformed his expected stats last year, right?
They were better at one point.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Christian Walker, who had one of his better games of the season, 3 for 4 with his 9th homer, 4 RBI. Last 15 games for Christian Walker, 291, 4 homers, 13 RBI, and 866 OPS, 92.4 average exit velocity. The biggest issue for Walker this season that I could see is just the strikeout rate. So if he can kind of figure that out, I think maybe we can get the Christian Walker we were expecting.
This is another one where the underlying numbers have mostly been there all along. Like this, like you said, the strikeout rate's a little high, and the fact that it's another 34-year-old first baseman who signed with the Astros, like oh man, I'm completely blanking on the former White Sox.
Abreu.
The Jose Abreu comps were obvious, but the underlying numbers have still mostly been very good for Christian Walker. So I really haven't moved him down very much in my rankings, even though he's been really bad. I think I've still kept him as a top 12 first baseman. Yeah, he's been 10th for me at the lowest. So I didn't really lose faith in Christian Walker.
I do have him lower than that. I have him behind like Vinny Pasquantino, who's been hot for a long time now. And let's see.
Yeah, I moved him down to 15th. I have him behind Hoskins, Vinny P, but I'm seeing now, Scott, you have him down at 20th at first base.
So, yeah, I want him ahead of Hoskins right now, who's been ice cold in June. He did homer here on Wednesday, but he'd been like 3 for 35 prior to that. Michael Busch has really picked things up and is playing more regularly against lefties now. I would prefer both Caglione and Kurtz to Walker. I don't necessarily I don't think that's obvious. I don't think it's wrong to have Walker ahead, but I'm less sure that even if he turns things around, it's going to be a great improvement over those guys.
All right, not so fun with arbitrary endpoints here. Willy Adames had a big game, 3 for 4 with his 7th home run, 3 runs, 3 RBI. But in his previous 21 games, he was hitting 101 with 1 homer, 2 extra base hits, a 393 OPS. It has been a rough go for Willy Adames' first year in San Fran. And he was I dropped him down a few spots in the shortstop rankings. I mean, it's such a great position, and he just is not performing. So that feels warranted.
Yep. Other than last year, Willy Adames has been kind of fringe.
Yeah.
Like
Just okay.
Worse than Dansby Swanson most of the time, right? And so I think it's fair. Like none of us really bought into what he did for the Brewers even before he signed with a team with a much worse venue in San Francisco. And so the fact that he's fallen so short of expectations through 2 months, given our already our existing bias against him, fair bias against him. Yeah, I think it's totally fine to move him down at that very deep position.
And if we're going to go with the like unprovable big contract thing, that would seem to make more sense for Willy Adames, going from 2 small market teams to, one of the most high paid shortstops in baseball. First time he's ever played in a big market like that. That makes sense. Juan Soto, he moved like 3 miles. That wasn't a big change. Like it's same media market. Like it was all like, I get that I'm not downplaying the psychological impact of signing the biggest contract in professional sports history. Like that can matter, but I'm more inclined to believe that would matter for Willy Adames, given the arc of his career, than for Juan Soto.
Let's talk about Lars Nootbaar, who has gone ice cold, 0 for 5 with a golden sombrero last 21 games. He's hitting 176 with 1 homer, 34% K rate, and OPS right around 500. Still 86% rostered. Should he be? Lars Nootbaar.
It seems a little high, especially since I don't like points leagues. You would think he would have an advantage there, but even his point per game average is not that impressive. What's weird is like he's doing what we've long wanted Lars Nootbaar to do. His launch angle is 3 times as high as it was last year. His pull air rate is the second highest of his career, and yet it still hasn't translated to. Well, I guess it has translated to more power than last year, but like the overall numbers are pretty underwhelming still. And that's not to say Lars Nootbaar can't get hot again, but I moved him down quite a bit in my rankings. He's still in the top 50 in the outfield. So yeah, 5 outfielder leagues, you're certainly holding on to him. But I don't think it's a must in 3 outfielder leagues.
Can I point out another one, since I was just looking at my shortstop rankings?
Sure.
You know who's been absolutely ice cold for the last like about 3 weeks? Geraldo Perdomo.
Ooh.
I don't know if anybody's realized he's hitting like 120 over his last 16 games with 1 home run, no steals, and like 8 runs and 8 RBI in 16 games while hitting third primarily. That's pretty rough. So never quite bought into the hot start for him, but yeah, that's gone really poorly.
All right, waiver wire fun with arbitrary endpoints here. Joe Adell stayed hot, hit his 13th home run last 15 games for him. He's hitting 333 with 7 homers, 14 RBI, a 1231 OPS. And Willie Castro, 2 for 3 with a triple and 2 RBI last 12 games for him. He's hitting 415, 4 homers, 11 runs scored, and OPS around 1200. Who do you guys like more in deeper 5 outfielder leagues, Joe Adell or Willie Castro? Who also has second, third, and shortstop.
Yeah,
I like Adell more because he can actually be a plus in a category. I'm not sure what category Willie Castro is a plus in. Maybe runs. Has he been batting high in the lineup?
He's only got 28 on this. He's got 28 in 47 games. That's actually a pretty good pace.
His RBI total is awful though. 13 RBI, 14,
15
RBI.
Now after today.
No, he hit 5th today, but it looks like he's usually around like 6th or 8th.
2 years ago, he was a legit standout in stolen bases, 4th in the American League with 33, but he's only got 3 this year. He only had 14 in 158 games last year. Like that seems gone. So,
which is so weird because they changed the rules and then he stopped running.
yeah,
I don't get it.
he might have been dealing with some kind of lingering injury last year, if I'm remembering correctly. But the fact that it hasn't been there this year seems to suggest that it's not coming back. So I think Castro is useful, certainly, because of that quadruple eligibility. That is, sextuple eligibility if you include middle and corner infield. But that's the most interesting thing about him, I think. The fact that he's like a decent hitter who can fill a spot anywhere for you, that does have value in and of itself. It's just he probably shouldn't be your plan A in any 12-team league at any of those positions.
All right, let's take our final break. When we return, we'll get into some other waiver wire options, the rest of Wednesday's action. We'll do that right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Other waiver wire hitters, no more endpoints here. Lane Thomas showing some signs of life since coming off the IL, 3 for 5 with his first home run here on Wednesday. He went 1 for 3 with a steal on Monday. 30% rostered. Does that number need to be higher? I feel like we need to see a lot more.
We need to see him play a lot more because he's been back 3 games. They were all against left-handers. Even against a left-hander, one of those 3, he didn't start. So if we can't even trust him to play regularly against left-handers, and we really need to see Lane Thomas play regularly against right-handers for us to care.
He's been pretty disastrous since getting to Cleveland.
Yeah. What about Carlos Santana, also in Cleveland? He is quietly just done his thing this year. 1 for 4 with a grand slam, 8th home run. He's hitting .251, 32 runs, 34 RBI. 738 OPS, plate discipline still solid. Everything under the hood, though, expected stats, not so great. 32% rostered. Should that number be higher for Carlos Santana?
No.
Is it out of character, the expected stats? Not really. Did we just lose Frank?
We did just lose Frank.
Oh,
I don't know what to do.
You don't? You should be used to this by now.
Yeah. Okay. I don't. To quote Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens, I know what I have to do. I just don't know if I have the strength to do it.
I've always seen Kylo Ren in you. I guess if we're still talking about Carlos Santana here, the expected stats may not be that impressive, but they never really are, and he's kind of managed to remain viable almost to age 40 now.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact he's doing it again doesn't strike me as remotely surprising. I look, first base is deep enough with all the Michael Bushes and Jonathan Arandas, all of those guys emerging, that I don't think Carlos Santana is anywhere close to must roster, but I'd prefer to use him to like a Nate Lowe at this point, I think.
I'm trying to figure out how to get us out of this weird 2-person off balanced look on the video, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I will just continue hosting the show. Do we have to talk about Abraham Toro? He went 2 for 4 on Wednesday with his 5th home run. He's hitting .330 with 5 homers and .928 OPS in 27 games. Just a 14% strikeout rate for Abraham Toro. Does he actually matter, Scott?
I don't think so. I mean, this is not his first go around.
Yeah.
Good for him that he's managed to do this well through 27 games and give the Red Sox a reprieve at first base for now. But I don't think it's going to last long.
Yeah, his career high OPS is 695. Actually, 688 is the career high for Abraham Toro. I don't know, like, he has cut the strikeout rate to 14%. The quality of contact is pretty good, 293, but 293 expected batting average. But we're talking about 99 plate appearances. Guys can just get hot for 99 plate appearances. I think that's probably what we're seeing with Abraham Toro. Max Muncy, the min Max Muncy, not Max Muncy. It's the worse Max Muncy. The one on the Athletics is probably the less confusing way to say that. He's hit well since returning. 7 games, he's hitting 276 with 3 home runs, 1 steal, 862 OPS. He's only 6% rostered. Is that too low?
A little low. Yeah, I mean, because how many? I would think there's close to like 10% AL only leagues, or at least AL only leagues and very deep leagues combined. So yeah, Muncy needs to be rostered in all of those at this point. Probably a little bit more.
Oh my goodness,
so
we're getting a little bit of Robo Scott here, and I'm starting to panic.
We don't need that. We don't need Chris flying solo out of nowhere. It's fine now, right? There's no interruption on my end.
It looks fine.
Flying solo out of nowhere. That's kind of a fun image. Yeah, Max Muncy, even in like some of the 15-team roto leagues, speed. Is it still?
It's fine.
Okay.
It's not fine at all. This is
okay.
Oh no.
It's falling apart.
What a disaster. Okay. You're back. Continue.
Okay. Max Muncy, I don't think is that good, but he's shown power and speed, and in deep enough leagues, probably enough of that to matter.
Yeah, that's exactly my thought. 10% is usually where we see the mono league only guys, and I think Max Muncy's probably that. And I think the same is probably true of Andrew McCutchen, who went 1 for 4 with a 6 home run, 3 RBI on Wednesday against the Marlins. He homered for the 241st time as a Pittsburgh Pirate, passing Roberto Clemente for 3rd most on the team. He has remained a really productive hitter, but not as a full-time player. So again, 6% rostered, probably only NL only leagues.
I gotta say, when I did pick McCutchen as one of my 10 sleeper hitters for this week, expecting nothing, expecting this is going to look foolish a week from now. But hey, it hasn't. So good for me, I guess.
Way to go. All right, let's talk some waiver wire pitchers. Walker Buehler turned in a quality start versus Tampa Bay. 7 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, 10 whiffs on 97 pitches for Walker Buehler. Velocity was up a little bit. I really don't think there's anything here. Even after this start, he's 68% rostered. That feels way too high for Walker Buehler for me.
Yeah, if he could string a few of these together, I'd be open to him being to him mattering. Like it seems like he recognizes he doesn't have the same stuff he used to pre-second Tommy John, so he's trying to turn himself into a Seth Lugo type pitcher.
Yeah,
but that's of course easier said than done. He's had a few scattered starts like this one where I could see how this might work for Buehler, but there needs to be more consistency for me to really buy into it.
David Festa started and had a quality start against the Rangers on Wednesday. Went 6 innings. It was only 86 pitches, so I don't know if that's like, hey, we're taking the leash off of him, or if it was just he was efficient in a good matchup. He took advantage. 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, only 4 strikeouts, but 17 whiffs on 86 pitches, 8 with the changeup, 5 with the slider, 4 on the 4-seamer. That's the thing with David Festa is the 4-seamer and changeup, or the slider and changeup last season showed some real signs of being very good swing and miss pitches, and that's going to be the key for him. I think there is upside with David Festa. He is a 2-start pitcher next week, and he's only 16% rostered. Gets Milwaukee, and then at Cincinnati is not great for a guy who's had trouble with the long ball. That's my biggest concern with Festa, but I would say that sounds like a top 10 sleeper pitcher, or at least top 10 sleeper pitcher to me.
Coming off this start with all the whiffs he got, I would say so. And no, I think Festa, I think 16% is too low. It may be backwards, the roster rate, what it should be for David Festa. It may deserve to be 61%, especially since with Zebby Matthews down for the count.
And Pablo Lopez out for, 6 to 8 weeks? Yeah.
Sure. David Festa has more job security than ever.
Yeah, and I think they kind of have to let these guys go deeper at some point, right? Like especially with no Pablo Lopez, like that's the one guy you could count on to go 6 innings, and now they can't. Like, that's going to really tax the bullpen if they keep pulling these guys after 5 innings. So
Chris was enjoying life without you too much, Frank.
it was not. I was not stressed at all.
I saw, a little opportunity there. Chris was like, "Nope."
You left us.
I have no idea what happened. I just got a visit from Robo Frank. I don't like.
It was the perfect thing about it, though, is like as soon as you dropped, we got Robo Scott, like immediately.
Wow, look at that. Yeah,
it was perfect.
Whatever just happened never happened before. I tried a bunch of other stuff and the internet was working fine. So I have no idea.
It was a surge so strong it affected us both.
All right, so you guys left off here on David Festa. Did you talk about any of these other names here?
No, we left on David Festa.
All right, well, Eduardo Rodriguez, a quality start against the Mariners, and then JP Sears, a little bounce back outing here. Looks like JP Sears might be a 2-star pitcher next week against the Astros and Guardians. Eduardo Rodriguez, the overall numbers look terrible. Underlying stuff looks a lot better. I don't know if you guys are intrigued. What do you think, Erod or JP Sears? I'm
kind of shocked that Eduardo Rodriguez roster rate is lower than JP Sears. I know Rodriguez has been worse, but it's not like Sears has been good. He's a 5.08 ERA, and he's a low strikeout pitcher. He's a pitch to contact pitcher in what might be one of the worst ballparks in baseball to pitch in. I really don't have very much interest in JP Sears at all, even after a very good start here. So I'm not saying I like Eduardo Rodriguez a lot, but I think there's more interesting going on with him than with JP Sears as like a low 4s ERA kind of guy.
Go for Festa over both.
Agreed, 100%.
All right, next group here. Bailey Falter continues to pitch well. I'm not exactly sure how, but he is doing it against the Marlins. 5 1/3, 1 run, 3 strikeouts. Last 8 starts, 161 ERA, 0.96 whip for Bailey Falter. Logan Allen turned in a quality start against the Reds. 6 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts for him. Just his second quality start of the season. Ben Kasparius is getting stretched out as a starter for the Dodgers. 4 innings, 1 run, only 2 strikeouts here. But everything else under the hood, the skills look really, really interesting here for Ben Kasparius. And Ryan Gusto turned in the first quality start of his career up against the White Sox. 6 innings, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts. Any intrigue in a Ryan Gusto, Ben Kasparius, Logan Allen, or Bailey Falter?
So I do think it's worth drawing a distinction between we don't know how Bailey Falter is finding success, and we do not think Bailey Falter will continue to succeed in this way moving forward, because those are very different things. Bailey Falter is succeeding because he is limiting hard contact to a really, really impressive degree. His expected WOBA on contact allowed is 326. That is one of the best marks in baseball. That's not sustainable for him. His career mark is 372. That's basically league average. Last year it was 374. He's a significantly below average strikeout pitcher. His control is about average. Bailey Falter, like, we got a pretty decent sample size here with Bailey Falter, and he has a career 4.40 ERA. I guess we can say, oh, just ride the hot hand. The problem is, like, who were we talking about last week? There was someone that we were doing the ride the hot hand thing for, and then they got bombed and their ERA jumped like a run and a half in one start. I can't remember who it is, but that's the risk that I think you're running with Bailey Falter, is that, like, the next time out could very easily be 7 runs in 3 innings, and it totally ruins whatever you've gotten out of him by riding the hot hand. Ryan Yarbrough, that was the guy. Thank you to Proserbius in chat.
And I think Yarbrough, there's more to like there than Falter.
Absolutely.
Not that he's great, but yeah, it's funny because the expected ERA for Falter is actually pretty good. It basically matches his ERA, but all the other ERA estimators, like the Sierra, is 5. The xFIP is pretty close to 5. And we don't talk about those numbers as much as we used to, but just as kind of a rough guideline, I would say of the ERA estimators, xERA is the best at explaining what's already happened, but I'd still trust those others more in a predictive sense. And
the research that I've done backs that up. That the FIP actually somehow still does a really good job of predicting future performance, even though it just assumes the pitchers have no control over the quality of contact they allow. So yeah, I have very little interest in Bailey Falter. I've got a decent amount of interest in Ben Kasparius, though. I think we can kind of write Ryan Gusko and Logan T. Allen. I don't have much interest in either of them at all. But Kasparius, I think you can make a mistake in looking at a bulk reliever dominating and saying, that's what they're going to do as a starter, because it's just a completely different thing. You're the first guy that they face in a game rather than being a change of pace guy. You've got to face the lineup multiple times. It's something Ben Kasparius has very rarely done this season. So I do think we should take what he's done so far with a grain of salt. But he's been really, really good. And now the Dodgers have confirmed he's going to be in their rotation moving forward. Who knows how long that lasts? I think it might only last as long as he's good. And maybe he won't be all that good. But given how good he's been this season, 2.86 ERA, strikeout rate 9.54 per 9, 1.8 walks per 9. I think we have to take Ben Kasparius at least somewhat seriously.
Agree.
All right. I did want to talk about Byron Buxton, but we're up against it here. So I'm going to save that for tomorrow. I think there's a pretty good sell high case here for Byron Buxton, although he is having a truly awesome season right now. Want to talk about some pitchers who came to a screeching halt here on Wednesday. Chris Bubich had one of his rough outings. He hasn't had many this season, but two have come against the Yankees. 4 1/3, 5 runs allowed, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. Again, he's only had 3 bad starts. 2 of them came against the Yankees, so perhaps they just see him well. It's a tough matchup for him.
Maybe he's tipping his pitches in a way they've only figured out. I don't know. The walks probably had more to do with his struggles in this one.
Yeah. Nick Lodolo got crushed at the Guardians. 3 1/3, 6 runs, 6 strikeouts. Under the hood, I actually thought it was a pretty good start. 14 whiffs. Didn't allow much hard contact. Seems kind of unlucky here for Lodolo. Matthew Liberatore has kind of struggled recently. 5 innings, 5 runs, 3 of those earned, 4 strikeouts to 1 walk. Has 14 earned runs over 14 innings in his last 3 outings. Down to 76% rostered. That kind of surprised me. People are dropping Matthew Liberatore. And Ben Brown, after 2 strong starts in a row, he ran into a brick wall at the Phillies. 5 2/3, 6 runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Still got whiffs here. Underlying numbers still look really good. Looks like he lines up for 2 starts next week. Where are you guys at on these names? Ben Brown, would you trust him for 2 starts? Are you dropping Liberatore? What do you think?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me Liberatore's being dropped. I mean, his ERA is almost 4 now. He doesn't have a very good strikeout rate, hasn't all year. It's the reason he's succeeded is because his control has been like best in the league. But since he doesn't have a track record of that, when you're an outlier at something, like a total outlier, one of the on the extreme ends of the rankings at something, and you don't have an established track record of that, I'm going to bet against you sustaining that. It worked for Ranger Suarez last year, and I think it's going to play out for Matthew Liberatore as well. Now, it's interesting. It's not like his struggles have coincided with a big increase in walks, but I don't think it's surprising at all that he's kind of coming back down to earth. If you want to take advantage of the relief pitcher eligibility in a head-to-head points league, hold on to him there, because you squint and hope for the best from those kinds of pitchers in that form. I understand. And you're losing me again. I know.
I'm trying to work through. I'm like, can we stick through it? Can we stick with it? I don't know.
I can read it all over your faces when it happens. Yeah, that's my take on Liberatore. Not a surprise that he's being dropped. I think outside of head-to-head points leagues, not that you must do it, but you can justify doing it. You
can. I want to talk about Ben Brown a little bit because he kind of, I'll say he went into like panic mode in this start, because this is the first time I think all season that he's thrown the knuckle curve more than the 4-seamer. And that strikes me as like I got no answers, I'm just going to spam my best pitch kind of move. And the problem is that's going to be a tough thing to do and throw strikes. His velocity was up. But his 4-seamer, like we talked about this weekend when he was coming off a very good start, where the four-seamer, he throws it hard, but it gets hit really hard when he doesn't miss bats with it. And then he threw 8 changeups today, which we talked about in the last start. I think one of the 8 was in the strike zone, and he didn't generate a single whiff or a single swing with it. It was a totally non-competitive pitch for him. That's going to be hard. Like, if that can become a consistent third pitch for him, there's real upside here, but otherwise I think it's going to be a real struggle. I think it's going to be up and down for Ben Brown. I still think he's super talented. I still think that knuckle curve is legitimately one of the best pitches in baseball, perhaps, but is he someone you should feel comfortable using? Certainly not. Now, he is a 2-star pitcher next week, and he's 47% rostered, so might be in that 2-star pitcher or that sleeper pitcher discussion.
There's a good chance. I mean, we didn't feel great about him against the Phillies, but his previous 2 starts were awesome. So, I like a lot about Ben Brown, but he's going to be kind of a Charizard, at least for the time being, I think, if I can make that analogy again, which means just as likely to burn you as to score big for you.
All right, let's get into some quick leftovers here. We already spoke about Luzardo. Zach Eflin, a quality start against the Tigers, 6 2/3, 1 run, 5 strikeouts. That's 3 quality starts in a row for him. And Clark Schmidt, a great outing at the Royals, 6 shutout with 7 strikeouts. In this one, he has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in 9 of 10 starts this season, has 7+ strikeouts in 3 of his last 4. Anything to add on Clark Schmidt or Zach Eflin?
I don't know why I just can't get all the way there with Clark Schmidt. He has like a 13% swinging strike rate now, which is really good.
It's the command.
He walks
I think
too many,
the command is bad.
Yeah, I guess that's it. It hasn't
so
really
many breaking pitches that it's hard for him to throw strikes sometimes.
It hasn't really hurt him, but I don't, even when he does well, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like there's enough upside to treat him like more than a streaming option.
He doesn't go the full 6 innings all that often, but he has a 2.78 ERA and 48 strikeouts in 45 innings over his past 8 starts. Now, you start to do the math, and it's under 6 innings per start. It's like 5.5 innings per start, and 3.8 walks per 9 in that stretch. Like that's probably just the reality of Clark Schmidt. I think Frankie put it well. He basically never throws his 4-seamer or sinker. I think it was like 15% combined today. His cutter rate is way up. I think that's a good idea. I think there's an inherent limitation to Clark Schmidt that makes it hard to buy in fully. But he's against the Angels and Orioles in a 2-star week next week. He's only 78% rostered. Let's fire him up next week at least.
Yeah, I didn't put him in waiver wire just because 78% is pretty high there, but he could be out there in some shallower leagues. So with those 2 matchups, I'd feel pretty good about that. Hitting leftovers from Wednesday, Trey Turner continues to play well, 2 for 3 with a walk and his 19th stolen base. He is on pace for 44 steals this season, which would be his most since 2017.
That's what he was doing last year before the hamstring injury.
Yep. Big game for Kyle Schwarber, 1 for 3 with a sock and a shoe, his 21st home run and 5th steal. Ronald Acuna continues to hit for power since returning, hit his 6th home run in just 18 games. Eugenio Suarez had a big game, 3 for 4 with a grand slam, his 19th home run. Jordan Westberg is back with a vengeance, has homered in back-to-back games since coming off the IL. Goodman stayed hot, 3 for 5 with 2 doubles and his 11th home run. Nice to see in Coors Field because he's actually been better on the road than at home this season, which is pretty weird. And Aaron Judge will not stop. 1 for 4 with a sock and a shoe, his 25th homer, his 6th steal of the season. Call to the bullpen here for the Pirates. David Bednar struck out 2 for his 9th save. For the Blue Jays, Jeff Hoffman was unavailable. Yariel Rodriguez picked up his 1st save. For the D-backs, Shelby Miller got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead, and he struck out 2 for his 7th save. Shelby Miller only 33% rostered, so
it's too
if
low.
you need saves, definitely
there's no one else. There's no one else in that bullpen who can do the job. Maybe a month from now, AJ Puck will be available, but it's Miller or bust. And look, Miller's got like a 1.60 ERA on the year. I know he was kind of shaky filling in for Justin Martinez last time, but he might just do a good job.
Yeah, peripherals aren't great, but I clearly think he's the guy.
For the Angels, Kenley Jansen was unavailable, so Chris's boy Reed Detmers got the 9th inning with a 1-run lead and picked up his 2nd save. For the Dodgers, Tanner Scott pitched in the 8th inning with a 2-run lead, facing the heart of the Padres lineup. There were 2 lefties in there. He struck out 1, picked up the hold, and Alex Vesia got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He struck out the side for his 3rd save. For the Red Sox, Aroldis Chapman picked up his 12th save. And for the Yankees, Devin Williams got the final 2 outs for his 8th save of the season. To stream or not to stream on Thursday, we have Will Warren at the Royals, Jacob Misiorowski in his debut against the Cardinals, Soroka's at the Mets, Andrew Heaney at the Cubs.
Don't love a lot of these options. Will Warren at KC might be my favorite. He's been really bad his last 3 starts though, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little concerning. He's been very up and down.
One against the Dodgers, one in
that's true, yeah.
home against the Red Sox, and then one in Coors Field. It was like 4 innings, 2 runs.
Yeah.
We gonna go fortune favors the bold here with Jacob Misiorowski, a
Let's
Charizard
go.
start if there ever was one.
Fire it up. Fire it up.
I don't really want to, but if you're saying I have to start 2 from this group, he would be number 2 probably.
I am very intrigued. Gonna watch Jacob Misiorowski for sure.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to watch Mike Soroka because I'm going to the game. I'm not saying I expect it to go well for him, but the new changeup, the way he threw it in the previous start against lefties, I'm very intrigued to see how this goes for Mike Soroka because I think there could be, I think we could be talking about him as a big waiver wire priority if he pitches well, and the changeup especially looks good tomorrow. So, not streaming him, he falls under the to not stream, but I'm intrigued.
And then on Friday, we have Cade Horton up against the Pirates, Edward Cabrera at the Nationals, Nick Martinez at the Tigers, Bryce Elder gets the Rockies in Atlanta, Adrian Hauser at the Rangers, Severino at the Royals, and that's about it.
More interesting options here.
Yeah, I think there's 4 interesting options here, maybe 5.
What are they?
Cade Horton, Edward Cabrera, Nick Martinez, Bryce Elder, and Adrian Hauser. Probably in roughly that order.
I'd put Severino ahead of Hauser, so maybe there's 6.
Maybe.
I think I would put Elder at the top of the list.
I think so too.
But look,
it's coming off his best start ever.
The Rockies
on the road. Yeah,
first team out of Coors Field, like that. It sets up so well.
It lines up for Bryce Elder to give up 6 runs in 4 innings.
Exactly right. That is exactly right.
Yeah. No, I think this is actually a pretty good streaming group. No sure things, but some interesting combinations of talent and matchup. And then Nick Martinez, don't love the matchup, but he's pretty good.
Yeah. I think I would go Elder, Horton, and probably Cabrera. He's pitching well right now.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to wrap there for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.